If you were to have a Gallup poll go around and ask people that question, or if someone were to go around and ask people in this audience the question of who protects the worker, I strongly suspect that you would get 1 out of 3 possible answers. Some people would say, oh, of course, it's the unions that protect the worker. Some other people would tend to say, oh, no, it's more important the government that protects the worker. And I suspect most people would say, it's nobody who protects the worker. Now, all 3 answers are under some circumstances correct. But all 3 answers are misleading. They cannot really be the right answer. One obvious bit of evidence that they cannot be the right answer, that there's something missing from that sequence of 3 answers, is the history of the United States over the past 200 years. Over that period, if we at least take the first 150 years, period from 1776 to 1914 or thereabouts, it could not very well have been unions that were protecting the worker, since there were almost no unions. Even craft unions developed fairly early. But even by 1914, there must have been a very, very tiny fraction of all workers in the United States that were members of union. It could not have been the government that was protecting the worker, because over that period, government was very small. Total spending by the federal government over that period never amounted to more than 3% of the national income, except for the period of the great wars of the Civil War, and before that, of course, the War of 1812. But during ordinary times, federal spending amounted to 3%. State and local spending amounted to about twice that much, mostly for schools. So it could not conceivably have been the government that was protecting the worker. Moreover, not only was spending low, but there was very little government involvement in the economy in any way. And it could not have been nobody who was protecting the worker, because that was a period of enormous progress for the ordinary worker. If we take that period, it was a period which saw the growth and development of the United States from a backward area. But even from the very beginning, Adam Smith, in his great book, The Wealth of Nations, published in 1776, remarks about the conditions in America, and he says that although America is at the time much less populous and much less wealthy than Great Britain, the worker in America is more expensive, because there were, at the time, as he argued, fewer workers relative to the demand for them. Over the period from 1776 on, the average conditions of the ordinary worker in the United States improved enormously. In the latter half of the 19th century, you had millions on millions of people, of penniless immigrants, come to this country. My parents came during that period. Probably the parents or grandparents of many of the people in this room came during that period. Why did they come? They came in order to improve their lives and to make a better life for their children and their grandchildren, and they succeeded. It would be very hard to find a century in human history in any country anywhere during which the ordinary man, the ordinary worker, the man who came to this shore from abroad, or the people who were here and grew up here, it would be hard to find a century in which the worker achieved a greater increase, a more widespread increase in his standard of life, in his level of living. So neither of these 3 answers can possibly be the right answer for a large part of American history. Before trying to go on to what the correct answer, in my opinion, is to the question, I would like to consider with you each of the answers that people give and see where they are right and where they are not, and why they are right and why they are not.